Hello everyone, it's Glenda and welcome back to my channel, Creative Grandma. It's Stitch of the Week time and this week's stitch is stitch number 118, the double down stitch. Now I'm not sure what the correct name is for this stitch pattern, but because we're doing double crochets and we're going down into 2 rows below, I just called it the double down stitch. So if you know the actual name of this stitch pattern, you can put it in the description box underneath the video. This is a wonderful pattern. It's nice and thick if you want to make dishcloths or just a nice snuggly blanket. This is a multiple of 2, so very simple pattern. It's a 2-row repeat and it's just a fun stitch to do. So this is my first sample, and this sample I made using the ice yarns. This is the Picasso in the rainbow color. It's a favorite yarn of a lot of people and it does look so pretty when it's worked up. So that's my first sample. My second sample I just made with pure white. I always like to make at least 3 samples, one with the solid color, one with maybe a variegated or a self-striping. So the solid color I think looks wonderful if you just want a classic looking Afghan, and white goes with everything. So for my white sample, I used the Premier Basics. This is a number 4 worsted weight yarn, very affordable yarn. It's a value yarn, very soft acrylic. So that was my second sample. My third sample I used with a lighter weight yarn. This is one of those yarns that gets real thin and then real thick. And I wasn't quite sure how I felt about this yarn. I purchased it, and then after I started working with it, I'm still not sure. It just wasn't quite what I had in mind. And sometimes when I make something, I don't like a yarn that gets real thick like up here and then real thin almost to where it looks like the yarn's going to break. But the yarn is beautiful when worked up. It's kind of like different subtle shades of green in this yarn. And this sample I made using the Yarn Bee Cleo or Chloe, and this is the color Pine Forest. So you can see how the different samples look worked up. Now this is the front, and when you turn it over, this is what the back looks like. So it's almost a reverse pattern, but you can see a slight difference on the front. So looking at the 3 samples, yarn really does make a difference in your project of how it's going to look. Now this third sample I showed you, this is a thinner yarn, so if you use a little bit bigger hook, you can get a really lacy look. Look how pretty that is. If you want a lacier look and maybe you're using a 3 lightweight yarn, this is really pretty. And then when you look at this sample, you're going to see it's a thicker sample because I used a smaller hook, but I used a thicker yarn. So you have to play around with your hook size to determine the look you want. And then this sample, I also used a hook size that was smaller than the hook recommended because I just wanted to see the difference of how the stitch would look. So if you like the lacier look, then bump your hook size up. So for today's crochet tutorial, I'm going to be using the Premier Basics. Again, it's a number 4 medium worsted weight yarn. Very affordable yarn, and I love using this in my projects and for my samples. This is color Sea Glass, very beautiful mint color. So I'm going to be using a size I9 or 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. So again, you can use whichever hook size you wish. So I'm just going to look on the label. This is telling me to use a size I9, and that's the size I'm using. But again, if you want a lacier look, use a bigger hook, and if you want a tighter look, use a smaller hook. Or just test it with the recommended hook size and make a small sample before you make a large project. Just test that yarn and hook to see what gauge you want before you start a major project. So let's go ahead and begin Stitch of the Week number 118, the double down stitch. So I already have my yarn attached to my hook and I just used a double knot. You can use whichever method you prefer. So we're going to begin, and because it's such a simple stitch pattern, I'm only going to chain 12. Yarn over the hook, pull it through your loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we have our chain 12 made, and now we're ready to begin row 1. Now row 1 is a very simple row, and I want to remind everyone all my crochet tutorials are filmed using USA crochet terms. We're going to skip that first chain, insert into the second chain, work a single crochet, yarn over the hook, pull it through that chain. You have 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You just made a single crochet. You're going to single crochet into the next chain, single crochet into the next stitch, and we're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch across. Single crochet into the next stitch. And we're just working over to the end of the row. And if you're new to crocheting, you may want to use stitch markers in your first and last stitch, just so you know where the beginning and ending of each row will be. So I'm over to the last chain, and I'm just going to work a single crochet into the last chain. Now if you're new to crocheting, put your stitch marker in this last stitch. Put a stitch marker back into your first stitch. You can see your first stitch right here where it looks like a little teardrop on top. That's your first stitch. Then put a stitch marker in the first and last stitch as we continue. For row 2, we're going to chain 2. We're going to turn our work. This beginning chain 2 counts as the first half double crochet. So you're working this first stitch. So now we're going to go into the next stitch, and we're going to work 2 double crochet. Yarn over the hook, insert into that next stitch. You skip the first stitch, you're going into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. You have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. That's how you make a double crochet. You're going to double crochet back into that same stitch. Now we're going to start our repeat. You're going to skip the next stitch and work 2 double crochet into the next stitch. 1, and 2. And that is the end of the repeat. Let's do it again. You're going to skip the next stitch and work 2 double crochet into the next stitch. 1, and 2. And that is the end of the repeat. Let's do it again. You're going to yarn over, skip the next stitch, insert into the next stitch, work 2 double crochets. 1, and 2. So we have one more repeat to go. You're going to yarn over, skip the next stitch, and work 2 double crochet into the next stitch. 1, and 2. Now if you're working on a longer project, say you're making an afghan, then you just continue working the repeat of skipping a stitch and working 2 double crochet into the next stitch across your work until you get to your last stitch. Now if you're using stitch markers, you're going to have a stitch marker into this stitch. We're going to end the row by working a half double crochet into this last stitch. You're going to yarn over, insert into that very last stitch under the top 2 loops, yarn over, pull back through that stitch. You have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. You just made a half double crochet. So row 2 is finished. This is what your work should look like. So now we're ready to begin row 3. Now rows 1 through 3 are the base rows, and rows 4 and 5 will be your repeat rows. To begin row 3, you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. The beginning chain 1 does not count as a stitch. You're going to insert under the top 2 loops of that very first stitch. Make sure you're going under those top 2 loops. Work a single crochet. Single crochet into the next stitch, and we're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch across. And if you're not sure where your stitches are, you can just pull it slightly and you'll see how those stitches open up. Single crochet into the next stitch, single crochet into the next stitch, continue and work 1 single crochet in each stitch across. So I'm over to my turning chain 2. Now this is why it's very important to use stitch markers, because this is where new crocheters make the biggest mistake. When they work in this stitch, they don't realize this is the last stitch. Your turning chain will be your last stitch. So you're going to go over to your turning chain, count up 1, 2, insert right into the top of that chain, and then work your single crochet. And row 3 is finished. And then go ahead and move your stitch marker up to that first stitch and the last stitch. So now we're ready to begin row 4 and start our repeat rows. To begin row 4, you're going to chain 2. 1, 2, and you're going to turn your work. This beginning chain 2 counts as the first half double crochet. So you would put your stitch marker right into the top of that chain. Now we're going to work 2 double crochet in between the 2 double crochet 2 rows below. And you're just going to ignore this top row. You're not even going to worry about row 3. We're going back down and working in row 2. So yarn over the hook, go to your first set of 2 double crochet in row 2, 2 rows below, and you're going to insert your hook right between those 2 double crochets, front to back. Yarn over, pull back through, you have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. You made your double crochet. Now we're going to work 1 more double crochet between those 2 stitches, 2 rows below, in the same space. Yarn over, insert back into that same space, work your double crochet. Now we're going to go to our next set of 2 double crochet, 2 rows below. You're going to yarn over, insert right between those 2 stitches. You're bringing your hook to the front of your work, insert between the first and second double crochet right between the stitches, and work 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Let's do it again. You're going to yarn over the hook. You're going to go to your next 2 stitches. Now when you're doing this pattern, don't get confused when you split that stitch. You're not going between here. You want to go to the next set of 2 double crochet that are in the same stitch. So always pay attention to your 2 double crochet and make sure you're not going in this space. They need to connect at the bottom where you see both stitches in the same stitch. Insert between the next 2 double crochet 2 rows below. You're going 1, 2, and you're going between the first and second stitch and working 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Let's do it again. You're going to go over and find your next 2 double crochet group where they all meet in the same stitch. Again, you're not going here. That is a different space. You want to go over here where you see the 2 stitches. And again, if you look, both stitches are in the same stitch. You're going to yarn over, Go to that next set of 2 double crochet, bring your hook to the front of your work, insert between the first and second stitch, and work 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. We have one more repeat to go. Again, both stitches are in the same stitch. You're going to yarn over, go to your next set of 2 double crochet, bring your hook to the front of the work, insert between the first and second stitch, right between the stitches, and work 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And then to finish the row, we have 1 stitch remaining, and if you turn your work, you can see the top of that stitch. We're going to work a half double crochet into this ending stitch. Yarn over the hook, insert under the top 2 loops of that last stitch, yarn over and pull through. You have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So row 4 is finished. This is what your work should look like. So let's begin row 5. To begin row 5, you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. You're going to skip that beginning chain 1 and you're going right into the top of this first stitch. Insert under the top 2 loops, work a single crochet. Single crochet into the next stitch. Single crochet into the next stitch, and again go under the top 2 loops, work your single crochet. And then we're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch across to the end of the row. And again, if you're not sure where your stitch is, if you just pull it a little bit with your finger, you're going to see that opening. That is where you want to go. Insert your hook and work your single crochet. And then we're over to the end where our turning chain is, and again you should have a stitch marker right in the top of that turning chain. If you're using stitch markers, you're going to count up 1, 2, insert right into the top of that chain and work a single crochet. And row 5 is finished. So now to continue working the pattern, you're just going to click back on the video and repeat row 4 and row 5 until you get your sample to the length you want or you're comfortable doing the stitch pattern. I hope you enjoyed today's crochet tutorial. This again is Stitch of the Week number 118, the double down stitch. So I want to remind everyone, all my Stitch of the Week patterns are free. I'll have the link to the Stitch of the Week page in the description box. If you click that link, then just scroll down to Stitch of the Week number 118, click on the name of the stitch, and that will open the pattern so you can either print it or download it. Now all of our Stitch of the Week patterns are free. You can download one or you can download them all. So thank you everybody for stopping by today and crocheting with me. If you enjoyed today's crochet tutorial, please make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the crochet fun here on Creative Grandma's channel. So until next time, stay inspired and happy crocheting.